Actually, okay, let's talk about a student agent. What's their role, and can they provide immigration advice?
No, an education agent commits a criminal offence if he or she provides immigration advice for a fee to an applicant.
That's in Australia. What about overseas?
Overseas, it's open slather.
Right.
You don't need any qualifications to set up, and a lot of agents hide behind the visa applicant themselves. Their name never appears on the visa application, and sometimes those agents are very good. They do the paperwork and so on, and there's nothing dishonest about them. The problem is they don't have the knowledge, because this area keeps changing. We have enough trouble trying to keep up with the law in Australia as specialists, and I've seen many circumstances where a perfectly honest education agent overseas has stuffed up a client because they haven't been able to keep up
With the changes
with the
involved.
changes. Yes,
Right.
they advise students that they can change their courses after they arrive. Well, yes, technically that's possible, but we've just discussed what will happen to you, or may happen to you, if you do change your course after you arrive, or change your educational institution after you arrive, or change your assessment level, visa subclass after you arrive.
What that means is, if you want your student visa organized from overseas, you can go to a student agent and get that done. But if you are seeking immigration advice, you have to go to a person who's authorized or specialized in immigration law. Students'
Exactly.
agents are not, in our opinion, at least from what you're saying, is not competent enough to provide immigration advice.
They're not qualified to give
Qualified.
immigration advice.
All right.
So they shouldn't be giving immigration advice.
Right. Let's talk about the practical realities. Student come here, does not change the visa. If they get into trouble, and before that, how would they get into trouble? How would the Department of Immigration knows that they have not continued with the level and course progress? And if they are reported, what are the steps that a student can take?
Well, many students, both Australian students and overseas students, have to work to help support themselves, and they tend to only find work in those industries like driving taxis, food processing production lines, where large groups of international students, and I should also add waitering in restaurants, where large groups of international students tend to congregate. Immigration, when they're checking as to whether whether any students are working beyond their 40 hours a week, target those types of industries, because they know that's where most international students are able to find employment.
All good things must come to an end, so we'll summarize. Valerie?
Look, it's important for students, given the nature and the complexity of the legislation and the monitoring of international students, it's a good idea once a student comes to Australia to seek legal advice, because the legislation is constantly changing, and what they have been told earlier would be to the grapevine or not through a competent advisor. So it's really important that they come in and seek legal advice.
So keep yourself up to date and seek advice.
Yes.
Nerada?
Yeah, I totally agree. Even when students come to us for their IELTS training, they have often been been misadvised on what IELTS level they need to get their visas, the student visas, and then also to move into the temporary residency and the permanent residency. And I always tell them to seek a lawyer, a migration agent or lawyer.
Michael, last words?
I see a lot of young students who suffer depression after they get here, and they can't get out of bed, and they run afoul of these attendance requirements, the 80% attendance requirements, and some of the other requirements. I think it's really important that if you've got friends who are having those problems, because most students are in shared accommodation, if you've got friends who can't get out of bed, the best thing you can do to help them is to get them along to see their local GP for a referral for psychological advice, because many students think that there is a very wide discretion and that the immigration rules can be bent. They can't be bent. and sometimes it's an irrecoverable spiral down, whereby you end up having to leave the country, having to truncate your course, disappointing your parents, a whole range of things that you cannot be saved from if you first start down that path. So if you've got some friends who are in shared accommodation and you know they're not attending courses, get them to get some advice, if it's medical advice they need or legal advice, because it's very difficult to fix something after it's broken with these visa classes. We're talking about border control legislation here. It's highly prescriptive. It doesn't care about you as an individual. There are no compassionate immigration rules. They've even abolished the word compassion in the migration regulations. So you need to be aware of that, and don't think that the immigration department are like your parents. They are not in loco parentis for you. They are out to control the borders of this country, and they'll get rid of you if you break any of the rules.
So keep up to date and informed yourself with the laws in relation to your matter. The information we've provided to you today may not be or will not be suited for your intended purposes. You must seek specific legal advice if you need assistance. With that note, I'd like to thank our panel, Valerie de Gama Pereira, an accredited specialist in immigration law. Thank you for your time, Valerie.
Thank you, Dinesh.
And Nerada Turner, a qualified teacher and an IELTS teacher as well. And Michael Clothier, thank you, again an accredited specialist in immigration law. And Michael, you have also been a former chair of the Law Institute Immigration Law Section Committee.
Yes, I think, and for my sins, I spent 5 years serving on the Immigration Review Tribunal. I try to forget that period.
All right, that's a different topic, so we will discuss that at a particular future date. Thank you.